Welcome to Surrender School.
Okay, today we are beginning a session called Supercharge 3, and I'll explain exactly what that is. What we're doing today, since there was no homework coming into this, what we're doing today is I'm going to introduce the methodology that we're going to use and give you kind of a foreshadow of the kind of things that we're going to be working on. And I'm going to show you exactly where to find it on the website and all of that. That'll happen today. And then you'll have your first homework assignment, which you'll share on next week. So I'm going to go into detail as we go along, but just realize this is Supercharged 3.0. And I picked this PowerPoint because it looks serious. Isn't this a serious PowerPoint? Anyway, and I'm having a great time with this. I love this PowerPoint template. I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, Supercharged 3, it's called Living Free. And that's, I think, the space that we're at right now. All right. So the mission statement of Surrender School is at Surrender School, we recover. Our mission is to share 12-step and other supportive recovery solutions with those who want a healthy relationship with food. We are not an official 12-step meeting, but we do try to adhere to the spirit of traditions. The vast majority of us are 12-steppers. So you'll see as we go through this, our feeling very strongly is, and what's happening more and more, is this sense that the 12 steps and the Enneagram and intuitive eating are all kind of working together, and eating by the light of the moon. And there's all these things are just kind of coming together in an absolutely beautiful way. So this living free is kind of a call out to that. Let's take a moment to feel your breath going in and out. Feel your feet on the floor. Be as present as you can be today. Just take a minute and feel your breath going in and out. Feel your feet on the floor. Just be with us as we go through this today. And now together, let's say the Surrender School version of the set-aside prayer. God, help me to set aside everything I think I know to leave space for what I have yet to learn. So we have had 1.0, Supercharge 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. 1.0 was very much, right, a study of yourself, the steps through your Enneagram type, and it was very much about yourself, and that was 42 weeks long time. And then we did 2.0, which was about others. So there's an aside here, and we went to others because it was about relationship. That was about 17 weeks long. And now we're returning to self again, but this time it is about freeing yourself with the help of your greater power. How do I live free? I'm going to have a premise here. Most people who go to a 12-step program, the first thing they do is they give up whatever it is, right? That's our goal, is to do that. Some of us do it well. Some of us, I'm one, do it really poorly, right? And basically are beating ourselves up, judging ourselves. It's not enough. It's all this stuff. But maybe we're still white knuckling recovery. But we're not eating, we're not drinking, we're not drugging. But we have this tight grip, which feels completely different than being free without the grip. That feels completely different. For the first time, I've been in program almost 24 years. For the first time in my life, I have freedom. I know what freedom feels like, and I sure as fuck know what freedom doesn't feel like, or what not being free feels like, because I've been that way. And I think I had to go through the work that I've done in order to arrive where I'm at right now. But it's a beautiful place to be, which is why when Joy and I sat down and said, what do we want this next incarnation of Supercharge to be? It was what we want it to be is this feeling of freedom. So even though we talk about food, and we will talk more, not about specific foods, we don't talk about potato chips or something like that, but we will utilize the metaphor of food. I guess I'll call it a metaphor, because it really doesn't matter what your addiction is, it's going to work the same way. So if you are not a food person, almost all of us are addicted to our personalities. You could even do that, that's fine, or shopping or drugs or alcohol or whatever it is, whatever's your deal. The idea here is how do I live free? Because the big book says we are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. I believe freedom comes first, and from that comes moments of joy and days of happiness. That's where we're going. So why living free? First of all, we have become aware as we work through this. And if you're new to this, it's okay. You'll become aware as you go through this. If you've been through, many of you have been through Supercharge 1 and Supercharge 2, we've become during that time aware. We're aware of ourselves. We're aware of other people. We're aware. We've also learned to observe ourselves and other people. We have that pause in there where we can observe and make a decision on what our behavior is in most cases. We understand ourselves better than we ever have before, and we have become more compassionate to ourselves than we've ever been before. At least that's where many people that I talk to live in that space right now. So I feel like we are ready. Then I want to say, this is an Audi TT. My husband owned one of these many years ago, and it was a manual shift. And I don't know how many of you, I know in Europe, everybody drives a manual shift, but here in the States, we usually drive automatics. But a manual shift, when you're stalling it out, you're shifting, trying to smoothly lift the clutch, do all that, right? That's the way it works. And it's very like, when you're first doing it. But what happens eventually is it becomes automatic for you. That is the freedom that you have with the manual shift because it's become automatic. The freedom that I'm talking about is similar to that. I live my life automatically and I live it freely. I live it freely. Now, if you are in a space that freely means I'm face planted into a pie, right? It's probably not free because in reality, what happens is it feels as good as that, better than that actually, because that's usually some kind of an avoidance or something, which we learn as we go through. Something that I discovered that I didn't know. I don't think I ever believed this. I don't know if it didn't know it or didn't believe it. I'm not sure which, and that is that each of the steps has a different freedom tied to it. But it's all about freedom. And it wasn't until Joy and I got together and sat down and worked through these steps that it's like, yes, each of these does have a different freedom that's tied to it. You probably don't believe that yet, but you will by the time we're finished with this, that each step has, imagine, by the way, if every step has a freedom tied to it, if you are a sponsor working with someone through the 12 steps, that you can help bless them with the freedom for each of the steps that each of the steps give. To me, that I think that's awesome. And as we work through this, that's what we'll find too. This is the methodology that we'll be using, at least for now. All right. So because 1.0 was about self, and this is about self. For right now, we're setting 2.0 aside, right? So the first week, every step will be 2 weeks long. The first week is you read the website for Supercharge 1.0 for your type. And then you read the summary, and I'll show you where that's at. You read the summary or watch the video for the 1.0 session because it introduces or at least reviews some Enneagram stuff. Personally, I would read the summary because that takes about 5 minutes, right? Maybe 6, maybe 10 minutes, right? It takes almost no time at all. And it summarizes it very nicely. What did we cover in that session? That's the only homework that you have for the first week is to read the website for Supercharge 1.0, which means you go to where it has all the 1.0 website. Next to it is the 2.0. I'll show you that in a minute. You grab that step for that and basically read through that website. You don't have to do any of the homework there. You can if you want to. It's great to do like maybe one of the assignments or something. That would be great. I think there's 4 questions for each thing. Answer one of the questions or something if you want to do that. Then the second week, you read and journal on the living free for that step. Right? There's basically a little bit of homework that you will do, and it's literally just doing a journal for that step because it introduces the concept of what is free for that section. So notice, by the way, see the books there? It says Supercharge 1.0, and below that is the Part A study guide. We have a naming problem because before we called it Supercharge 1.0 because we didn't know there was going to be a 2.0, we put Part A as the study guide. So Part A study guide is Supercharge 1.0 study guide. And there's so many places that it sits that we didn't rename it. So you just have to do that translation. A equals 1. There will be breakout rooms. There won't be today because you didn't have homework, but there will be breakout rooms. They will be random each week, meaning that God will figure out who goes into which breakout room. There will be breakout rooms. Joy and I and Lori and or Mary, whoever is the person that's running that, stays in the main room getting ready for the next week. So we won't go to the breakout rooms unless there's a specific reason to go to the breakout room. So it will be the same topic each week. And that topic in the breakout room is freedom from. So when you read the first thing, you're going to come in, you read the 1.0 stuff, you're going to guess, what am I getting free from in this step? And then in the main room, you have the freedom to do what? Right? So there will be some sharing in the breakout room, and there will be sharing in the main room, and they can kind of go either way, but basically it's what are you getting freedom from in the breakout room, and what are you getting the freedom to do? And the reason I want to talk about the freedom to do things in the main room is because when you are free, it does free you up to do things that you haven't done in the past. And that's what we want to celebrate. And that's the reason we're going to do it in the main room, because I'm selfish and I want to see it. I want to see the growth. We can come back to this, but you'll see it when it kind of happens. To give you a small taste of the work that we'll be doing, I will return to the homework later on, and I'll go into detail again there, and you can ask questions there. I want to give you a taste of some of the work that we'll be doing over the next 27 weeks. If it lasts 27 weeks, it's entirely possible that you will want to do all the homework together, 1 and 3, Supercharge 1 and 3 all together. You guys will just have to tell me that. Do we want to squish it together? I just don't want too much homework because I know people are busy, especially this time of year. To give you a small taste of the work that we'll be doing, I'm going to read a paragraph from the step 1 study for each of the types. I'd love for you to lean in when I read your type because it speaks specifically to you. And I think it is poetry. These are so beautiful as the big book. This is one of the reasons I was a literature major and I love really good writing. And for some reason, this is absolutely beautiful. All right, is everybody ready? Okay, here is the type 1, step 1 of living free. Step 1 is the first real exhale for a type 1. The moment the relentless project of self-correction finally admits it isn't working. For years, food may have been where control and rebellion met. Rigid rules followed until the pressure of never being good enough broke them. Then guilt. That started the cycle all over again. This step doesn't ask a type 1 to fail better. It asks them to stop treating their body and appetite as one more assignment to grade. Freedom begins here in the quiet, disorienting relief of admitting that no amount of discipline was ever going to make them finally, permanently enough. That is for the type 1. I'm going to say it. Isn't that astounding? Isn't it astounding? Okay, you ready for 2? Type 2. For type 2, step 1 of living free. Step 1 is the first honest breath after years of performing fine. For a type 2, powerlessness isn't just about food. It's the shock of realizing that the constant giving, anticipating, and smoothing over never actually fed you. Food quietly became the one thing you let yourself have when no one was watching. This step doesn't ask you to stop caring about people. It asks you to stop hiding behind caring for people. The unmanageability isn't only overeating or restriction. It's a life so tuned to everyone else's frequency that you lost track of your own hunger, exhaustion, and pain. This is for the 2. All right, for the 3. Type 3, step 1. Step 1 is the moment the performance finally stops paying rent. For a type 3, admitting powerlessness isn't the disaster it sounds like. It's the first permission in years to stop managing the story. The unmanageability isn't only about food. It's about a life run like a campaign, where eating became fuel for the next win or the reward after surviving it. Freedom begins the instant you let the applause go quiet enough to notice the exhaustion underneath. This step doesn't ask you to fail publicly. It asks you to stop rehearsing an answer long enough to feel what's true. Okay, I know we have a lot of 4s. 4s, are you ready? Type 4, step 1. For type 4, freedom starts with a small, almost disappointing admission. This isn't a tragic gift, it's a compulsion. Fours often dress eating struggles in the language of sensitivity, depth, or artistic suffering, as if the intensity itself proves something meaningful. Step 1 asks for something plainer. It invites fours to stop narrating the craving and simply name it. Powerless, unmanageable, ordinary trouble like anyone else's. That plainness can feel like a small loss of specialness, but it's actually the first real relief. The exhausting work of making pain profound finally gets to stop, and honesty gets to begin instead. Is this shit amazing or what? I'm just like blown away. I'm telling you, it touches my heart. All right, 5. Type 5, step 1. Step 1 begins by softening the certainty that if you retreat far enough inward, you'll be safe from being asked for more than you can give. For a type 5, admitting powerlessness isn't primarily about food's grip. It's about noticing food quietly took over the job that connection was supposed to do, managing your energy, your boundaries, your exposure to other people. This step doesn't ask you to explain the pattern. It asks you to stop defending it long enough to feel how small your world has become. That flicker of maybe I don't actually have this handled is the first real crack in the watchtower, and it is where freedom starts. All right, type 6, step 1. Step 1 cracks open the illusion that a type 6 can outplan or outworry their way to safety. This step isn't only about food. It's the first time a 6 may admit that their whole strategy of vigilance, worst case rehearsal, and using food for a jolt of calm has never actually made them safe. This is where the fixation gets interrupted. Something in them stops scanning for danger just long enough to notice how tired they are. Freedom begins here as a raw honesty, not resolution. The moment a 6 lets the exhausting search for guarantees fall to the floor, even without knowing yet what will hold them instead. All right, type 7. For type 7, appetite has always felt like fuel, a hunger for good food, good plans, good feelings, always more of what's ahead. Step 1 asks 7s to stop and notice what that hunger actually does to their relationship with food, how eating became less about nourishment and more about staying one step ahead of anything uncomfortable. This isn't a step about willpower or portion control. It's the first crack in the story that says a full calendar and a full plate can outrun a bad feeling. Naming that as unmanageable is not a loss of fun. It is the first honest breath in a long time. Type 8. Step 1 is where a type 8's armor first cracks open in a way that lets truth in. For most of your life, force has worked. Push hard enough, stay strong enough, and you can manage almost anything. Food may have been one of the few places that force didn't hold. Step 1 asks you to stop pretending that it did. This isn't collapse. It's the first honest look at a battle you've been losing while insisting you were winning. For a challenger, admitting powerlessness over food is the doorway into a kind of freedom that willpower alone was never going to reach. And type 9. For years, the fog has felt like mercy, food as a dimmer switch, muting whatever might have caused friction. Step 1 doesn't ask a type 9 to explain the fog. It asks them to notice they're in one. This is the first real look at what keeping the peace has cost. A self that went quiet, a life that ran on autopilot, appetite substituting for aliveness. Freedom begins here, not as a solution, but as a startle. The moment a 9 feels the floor under decades of comfortable numbness and realizes the quiet was never the same as being okay. This was the very first paragraph of the step 1 of Supercharge 3. Can you see why I love it? I'm just blown away. All right. Okay, I have something. It's in the form of a confession, but it's not that. I'm going aside here for a second. Okay, so those of you who went through 2.0, I said that I would send you a B pin. I actually, instead of the little pin, it's like a little iron-on thing. However, the arrangement in the US, so the people in the US, I sent it to. The arrangement was, thank you, Binti, for offering. I was to send it to Binti, and then she was going to send it those to everybody in Europe and the UK. So I put it all together, put it and took it 3 different places, and the cheapest I could do, it was $282 US to send it. And I've decided not to do that. And I told my husband, I feel so bad. And he said, and by the way, it is a card with notes from people at the retreat to you. That's why it was really cool, right? So anyway, my husband said, scan the cards with the little B thing and send it to the people. So I will do that this week, and all of you will get the scan cards. If you ask me for you'll get that from the people that were at the retreat. So I apologize for that. And I almost said yes to the $282, but I thought I would never personally spend that, and it's not fair for me to ask Surrender School to spend that kind of money either. So Binti, I know you've been waiting for that, but it's not going to come. Okay, thank you. All right, that's it for that. All right, so everybody ready to see where all this stuff is? I'm going to show you where it's at, and we'll cover the homework again. All right, so let me share my screen again. Okay, so as I said, what I read were the first paragraph in the Supercharge 3, and hopefully you're like, I tell you how I felt when I looked at the one for type 8. I have always acted as if, I'll say that, it's working, it's not working, right? And I'm finally able to say, okay, Cheryl, let's be realistic here. Anyway, it's good. I'm good with that. All right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to review our approach, and then I'm going to show you where to find the homework. And then, Joey, if you want to actually go out to a website, what I did was took pictures of the website, and it should look familiar to everybody. Okay, let me go ahead and go through this. All right. So first of all, week 1, you read the website for Supercharge 1.0, and then you read the summary of the video or watch the video for 1.0. Because it was 42 weeks long, the video is relatively long, and step 1 was 4 weeks long. But you can read all of the step 1 stuff in about 10 minutes if you read the part A study guide that sits out there. And I'll show you where that's at here in a minute. Okay, that's week 1. In other words, the assignment today for next week is that. You're going to go into Supercharge 1.0 and read all of your types. Step 1, which isn't that long, a couple pages. And then you're going to read the summary of the study guide. If you haven't been through 1.0, you might want to actually watch the video. The study guide is pretty good. It's a summary of what was covered in the video. All right, so that's for this coming week. The week after that, you're going to actually read and journal on the living free part, which I'm going to show you how to get there. Okay, so you'll do it just as we hit that step. We're on step 1. You do the Supercharge 1.0, you read through all that stuff, and then come in with your kind of view at that point of time on freedom from and freedom to. And then you do the living free, come the next week, and let's see if the freedom to and freedom from and freedom to has changed at all, has been enhanced at all, and so forth. We may find, and I'm open to suggestions on this, you might find it's like, you know what, I want to do it all the same week, and then that will shorten it. I just didn't want to give you too much homework all at once. Everybody good? Okay. So that is the methodology we're using right now. If you go to the main website, you will see this picture. You will see this. This is how you got to the Supercharge page. So you will click on the Supercharge page, and it will take you to this screen. Now this screen right there, it says download part A study guide. So that is the 1.0 study guide, right? So you can download that, grab it. You don't have to print it out if you don't want to, but and then you've got that so that you can read it instead of watching the videos. All right, so further on, then just below that are the pictures of all of the icons. So I'm in this particular one, grabbing type 1, click on that, and then it comes up with this page. This all looks familiar to you if you went through 2.0. So now we're going to do step 1 of this type. and I click on step 1, and basically we get this, and you just, this is your step 1 work. And then you're going to down arrow all the way. Look at the very top where it says explore going deeper. That's where you would go out to 2.0, but you're not going to. You're going to stay here, and this is where living free is. Right? And this is the week 2 homework. So I have this, you can't read it. It has letters on it, words. I'm going to read it because you can't read it. Faith is not an effort, a striving, a ceaseless seeking, as so many earnest souls suppose, but rather a letting go, an abandonment, an abiding rest in God that nothing, not even the soul's perceived shortcomings, can disturb.
Okay, so this is the website, right? To get to the Supercharge page, one of the ways is to scroll down and you click Supercharge. Now, when you're on this page,
Stop, before you do that, go down, show the Part A book. There. Download Part
right
A study
here.
guide is there. Yes.
If I click this, watch what happens. It's going to just download, and here it is. And this is the study guide that has all the summaries for all of the steps.
42 sessions.
Yes. So it has a summary. That's what this is. I'm going to go back to my homepage, and I want to show you before I click on the types, because where you're going to get your information is clicking on your types. But those who want to watch the videos, it's not going to be these videos because this is Supercharged 2. But if you scroll down, here are all the step 1 videos for Supercharge 1. Just click on each one. If you want to do the step 1 and step 2 and step 3 and so forth. Okay. So now, 4s, we usually have a lot of 4s. If you want to get to your information, you're going to click on your type. You're going to click on this week. We're doing step 1. This is part A, step 1. Here is step 1. You can read all this for the homework.
Yep.
This is the first week, right? This week, you're going to read all this. And then if you're new, we suggest you do 1 or 2 of these questions. And then for the second week, you'll scroll down to the bottom. And here's the living freer stuff.
Thank you. Today, we're going to wrap up here in a minute. And then just remember the homework. And I do want your comments as we go through this. Does it make sense to do it all together? That's the other thing. Then it only lasts about 12 weeks. But right now, we're set for it to last 27 weeks because we have Labor Day weekend off, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. We have those days off. So it's 27 weeks long. But I don't know that it needs to be. What I'm finding when we were going through it, Joy and I, is that review of 1, there's enough there to keep us busy for the amount of homework we do. And the living freer stuff, even though it's only a page long, I swear, blew my mind every step. It's just like, I mean, it really did, because and maybe it's where I'm at. It just completely changed my perspective on so many things. So that's the reason we split it out. You may find we don't need to. You might find yourself going on to the living freer during week 1. I don't know. You might, though. Let's do the serenity prayer to close. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks for recovering with us.